Hello friends, this is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing. Today I'm going to be creating in my large Dilutions journal this double page spread, this beautiful, lovely piece. I'm going to be using a couple of Sean Petit stencils, some matte medium. I didn't end up using any texture paste, and some of these paints I did not end up using either. So I cut some little ephemera up to apply to my project. I did not end up using the little fairies, as you'll see as we move along. I'll be doing my collaging of my background with the papers that I'm showing you here. Most of them, in fact, all of these today are from Etsy shops, which I will have the links in the supply list. Lovely is kind of the focus. The actual page title is I Love You, but you'll be able to read about that on my Sunday's Art of Truth over on my blog. You can get the full scoop on what my thought process was, what my inspiration was for this spread, and I hope that you'll head on over there at B.Rebornart.com. So here I'm going to go ahead and just start applying all of my collage papers. I do fast forward through this just because it's fairly redundant, takes quite a bit of time, and maybe kind of boring. I don't know if people really like to see that process or not, but I thought I would go ahead and just fast forward through some of this part. So I am rounding the corners because the corners of this journal are rounded. So you'll see me do that from here. You'll see me do that here and there. I do want to kind of give you little snippets here so that you can see the varieties of paper that I'm using, as well as how I spread them out over the spread, because I try to break up the different components, the different pieces that are alike, so that they're not all in one place. So that's what you see me doing here. In the end, as you know, collage papers don't generally show through, at least not in their full beauty. We just see little bits and pieces of them through the texture. Especially in my mixed media journey, I love texture. It's my favorite part of mixed media. So much of this just is kind of lost in the background, but it also has a place in the story. So again, you'll be able to read that in the blog. Layers are everything. Life is about layers. And so I love layers in mixed media. It really helps me process through my feelings and my thoughts. So just finishing up with the collaging here. I've got some ledger papers, some other vintage. I believe that the darker bits, the one that says Mercredi 7, I know that that is that is a Paris paper, and that is, I believe, the month. I think that's July. I don't know what month it is, but it is one of the months of the year. So I'm not very sharp on my French currently, but I'm going to use some black archival ink and a couple of Sean Petit stencils. And again, those will be listed in my supply list. Just creating a little bit of interest in the background initially here. Also using I believe this is called Splash and Splat or something. It's one of Sean's new stencils. So just again applying it just to create some background interest. Again, a lot of that does not show. I'm using this heavy body Liquitex paint. I believe it is deep turquoise, and I'm using titanium Titan Buff. And this part of the process was a bit of a hot mess. Oh, and there I had earbuds in as I was listening to a audio book while I was creating, and it fell out of my ear and into my paint. So that was kind of comical. So this part was, again, kind of a hot mess. I really wanted to just get some color on. I wanted to kind of break that page up and get some color going, because that's usually, if I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, if I get some color down on my surface, I generally get some inspiration, not inspiration, but I kind of know what my next step is. So I'm just applying this really vibrant deep turquoise onto both pages. And then you'll see me wipe it up. I was not very gentle when I wiped it up, and so I did pull up some of the paper in spots. But again, it doesn't show in the end. As you can see, I'm pretty aggressive, and even though this is sped up here, I was wiping pretty hard. So note to self, I probably should be a little bit more gentle about that. I did like the blue tinge that it left. Again, I'm not sure what my thought process, why I chose to do it that way. But in the end, it was gorgeous. Like, I absolutely loved it. As you'll see here in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and start applying the Titan Buff here with my small brayer, and then I come in with a more concentrated application of that deep turquoise, and the results were incredible. So, but you'll be able to see that here as we move along. And as you can tell, a lot of that background, as I mentioned before, does get covered up. But in the still photos at the end, you'll be able to see that parts of it peek through, and it's really interesting. It's always interesting to me what ends up shining through or showing through in the end result. Not anything deliberate on my part. I think it's just kind of, it's just, I don't know, it's magical. That's the only way I can explain it. I don't plan that, but I'm always surprised at what ends up peeking through. So trying to mute down that deep turquoise a little bit, it was pretty vibrant there on the right-hand side. And there you can see I did pull up some of that paper. Not too concerned about it. It's just taking it back down to that, to the actual journal page itself. So I'm going to do some reverse stenciling with this Sean Petit stencil, and I need to add this. I've already created my supply list, but I forgot this one, so I'll be sure to add that in. I don't recall off the top of my head what it's called, but I'll be sure to link it. I love the reverse stenciling, and in this case it was really subtle and just kind of broke up some of that color, which is kind of the point. So I liked it. In the end, I liked it. There were points where I was like, oh, this is a hot mess. What am I doing? What am I doing? But in the end, I was really pleased with it. So now I'm going to come in with my Liquitex gesso and use my little palette knife to just kind of scrape on some of this gesso. The gesso has a great texture to it, and so when you apply it in this way, it creates this effect on the spread that it captures any other mediums that you are applying to the pages, and it just grabs that. It's got a lot of tooth to it, which really helps the media to stick to it. And again, you'll be able to see the result of that in the still photos at the end, as well as I also post more still photos over on my blog. So if you want to see all of the photos that I took, you can head on over there at the same time as you read the blog. I'm going to be coming in also with Deco Art Crackle Paint here, and I'm doing the same technique with my palette knife. I did kind of get a little lost in this process and kind of forgot where I had been and where I had applied it, because it's the same color as the gesso. So it was a little tricky, but again, what I'm trying to do here is just to create some texture and interest in the background. I have a really hard time not using the gesso and the crackle paint in my projects and creating this beautiful layered effect of texture in the background of my projects. I love seeing the cracks come through, and again, the cracks are part of the story, part of the inspiration behind this spread. So, and they're just giving you a close-up, slowed it down just a little bit so you can see the cracks and you can see the buildup of that gesso. It's just quite beautiful. And you can also see the flower shapes there from that stencil, as well as the background papers peeking through. Do also keep in mind that I dry between layers, so even though I don't show dry time, I do dry before I move on to the next step. I'm going to be using my black archival ink again and Sean Petit's dictionary pages stencil, and I'm just going to randomly apply these words just here and there around the project. And then you'll also see me, I didn't kind of slow it down to show you the stamping that I did, but I also come in with my penny black script stamp and do some stamping with the archival ink as well. I love to see the writing on top of the texture. It's another one of my favorite techniques. Words have a lot of meaning. I know they have a lot of meaning for a lot of people, but for me, they are how I recorded my life, my memories, my experiences, my fears, all of my healing. I have volumes and volumes and volumes of journaling, which is all a compilation of words. And so words have great meaning, and the words in the layers of this spread are also quite meaningful to the inspiration. So And there's the penny black script stamp that I was talking about, one of my favorite stamps, and I have linked that in the supply list. I got it over on Amazon. And that other stencil, I think I mentioned, the Splash and Splat, I think it's called, is also from her spring line, Sean Petit spring line of stencils. I'm going to go ahead and do a raw umber glaze. So I'm using my raw umber fluid acrylic and my golden glazing medium. And as usual, if you've watched my channel or watched my videos for any length of time, you know that I always put out way more product than I need, and I end up wasting. So I didn't use all of this that I squirted out, which is really sad, but it is what it is. I do my best. So just giving an even application, or not even, just completely coating both of the pages with my raw umber glaze. And what this does is it's going to do two things. It's going to create kind of a vintage feel to the page. It pushes back that really vibrant deep turquoise, which the camera is really not picking up how bright that really is, unfortunately. And it also gets into all the crevices of that gesso as well as the cracks from the crackle paint. And so here you're going to see me go ahead and wipe it off. And it's kind of hard to tell on camera how much is left, but you can see kind of that brown undertone left behind. And I come in with my brush and apply more in specific areas, trying to use the paintbrush with my right hand and dab with my left hand. And so my journal is moving all over the desk. I don't do well when I do something with both of my hands at the same time. But it all works out. I really enjoyed this process. And I'm going to also write about this on the blog. I'm really trying to slow down. I'm trying to change my expectations around my art, change the focus of my art. So you'll be seeing me do some new things that you've never seen me do before as I get ready. And here is just a close-up of that texture as well as the stamping on top of it. Really, really beautiful. So what I was doing while I was creating this was I was listening to an audiobook, and that really just helped me move through the process. It was quite enjoyable. Didn't feel quite so much like a performance and just my own personal creative time just with the camera going. So I decided to go ahead and build up my focal point using this old vintage book page. It's actually from a vintage Heidi book. And so I'm going to use that as the background for putting these other cards on top of it. I was playing around with that yellow ribbon. I did not end up using it, as you'll see as we move along, but I did have it out because I thought it would be nice here, but it didn't work out. I'm going ahead and using my vintage photo archival ink and kind of grunging up all the edges, inking the edges of all three of those ephemera pieces. This is also from an Etsy shop online. It's called Yellow in the Garden, and it is linked in the supply list as well. Yellow is my favorite color, and again, I'll be sharing a bit about that in the blog as well, why I chose what I chose. So here is where I'm playing around with the ribbon and trying to put it in the middle of this strip of paper, but then my little ephemera squares were just going to cover it up completely. But I thought I would go ahead and leave it in just so you could see kind of what the process is. It's kind of nice to see the mistakes and the correcting at the same time as you're seeing the project move along, I think, anyway. I like to see people be human when they are creating art because otherwise it can feel pretty intimidating. So I make a lot of mistakes, and I find that I can't really do a real-time video because I'm just too scattered and I'm too all over the place. And so I decided I'm going to just release myself from that expectation, and I'm just going to start doing a voiceover, and that way I can do something that's pleasing to me. I can be even listening to the TV or listening to an audiobook or listening to music while I'm creating, and then just do a voiceover for you all. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Using some heavy gel to go ahead and glue down these ephemera pieces onto my paper. And what's really interesting is what ends up showing through on this background paper. I believe it's on this piece, there's some words that were quite meaningful, not necessarily in a really like happy way, but more in a truthful way. So I think it's pointed out in one of the still photos. So I'll reference that when I write the blog. So I'm getting ready to get this all posted for my Sunday's Art of Truth, which is actually tomorrow. This is Saturday, and the video posts on Sunday on Vimeo. So I'm no longer on YouTube. I'm sure that you remember that. So I am no longer utilizing the platform of YouTube or Facebook. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my focal point here onto the left hand side of the spread. And again, I'm using my heavy gel to do that just because there's a lot of texture in the background, and I want to make sure that I get that it adheres well and it doesn't move around. So that's what you're going to see me do here. And I do kind of search to find something for the right hand side. It's a pretty big spread to only have this one element. I didn't really think that through when I started the process. I was really just kind of creating intuitively and not planning a lot. So I did fuss a little bit with trying to figure out what I was going to do from time to time. So here's me thinking with my fingers. And I did pull out a butterfly, a large butterfly. This is from an Etsy shop as well. The original digital design, these butterflies are really small. I blew it up and made it into this really large piece for this purpose. So I really, really was happy with it. It's got the yellow that is in the flowers and in the little girl on the left. And it just really tied the page together well and filled up that other side and complemented the whole spread, I think. So I'm doing my edges with Vintage Photo archival ink. I have linked that also in my supply list. You cannot buy this in a pad anymore. So I had to buy a DIY empty pad and buy the reinker, the Vintage Photo reinker, in order to have the archival version of this color. So I like the archival ink more than I like the distress ink. So that's just my personal preference. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this also. I can't talk today apparently, with my heavy gel as well. And again, that's just because it's kind of the background has a lot of texture. So my throat is a little sore today. I'm really praying that I'm not getting sick. I don't know if I've just talked too much or what the deal is, but I woke up not feeling well at all today. So really praying that passes quickly. We just got all of our kids back in school, so I really don't want to be gone now that we're all back on a regular schedule and our kids are all kind of getting used to the routines again. So really don't want to miss it. So I'm going to also give a coat of this heavy gel to the top of the butterfly, just to kind of give it a really good seal. I really like that really I just like the unification that's created when I put the the heavy gel or matte medium on the top of my elements as well as underneath as a glue. So that's why I really like to do that. I'm going to cut off the extra bit on the edge there. And I have some other little pieces that I'm going to be applying. I pulled some buttons from my stash that I thought would help me tie in both pages of the spread, the kind of that reddish pink in the butterfly to the other side of the page. So I pulled some buttons in various colors, and I'm going to adhere those with my E6000 glue. I just didn't really want to deal with anymore the heavy gel. Thought about getting out my glue gun, but I just went with the E6000. So I'm going to go ahead and apply those. And I'm going to be applying them over on the left-hand side of the page as well as over on the right wing of the butterfly on the right side, which is going to really tie the whole spread together and make it feel more cohesive. I need one of those like toothbrush squisher thingies, you know, the ones that push the toothpaste up your tube for my E6000, because I really struggled to get the glue out of the tube while doing this process. So just using a wet baby wipe to kind of dab up the extra oozing glue through the buttonholes there. And then applying, I think I applied 5 buttons here over on the other side. And I've really tried to do my voiceovers as though it's present tense, but I just can't do it because I'm not currently doing the craft. I'm talking about having done the journal spread. So it just doesn't work in my mind for some reason. So I hope that doesn't bother anybody. It's my process and it really works for me. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. So this is a little dictionary snippet of the word lovely that I'm going to be adhering to the left wing of the butterfly. And it is it is the message of the blog post. I mean, I gave the word lovely as the definition, but the journal spread is called I Love You. And so it fit really well with this. And I didn't want the sentiment or the quote to be anything really elaborate. I just wanted the simplicity of this, as the message of the spread is simple as well. And I'm really trying to return to that place of simplicity in my creativity. So I've got a few other little pieces of ephemera also from various Etsy shops. I don't think I linked these. I think the little postage stamps there, like the one I'm doing there, I got from My Porch Prints, which is also linked in the supply list, because that's where I got the lovely word definition. So I think I captured everything. I think I captured the makers of all of the pieces of this spread. So hopefully, the butterflies, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure where the butterflies came from. They are from a digital kit, or a digital kit probably from Etsy. I'm going to be starting to do junk journal stuff. I actually made my first junk journal, which I'll be sharing in my next video. And then I'll be beginning with you all to start creating some ephemera, doing some master boards and things like that to kind of get some of that prepped. And then hopefully you can join me there and play with me as I learn how to junk journal. I really want and need that kind of more introspective space that junk journaling is going to provide for me, because it ties in my love for writing along with my love for art and paper crafting. So I'm going to kind of marry those up together, and am entering the world of junk journaling. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'll be showing that in the next video. So I'm going to use my artist pit pen to go ahead and draw my antennas back onto my butterfly. I get frustrated fussy cutting out butterflies because it's nearly impossible to keep that antenna attached. So I decided I would just go ahead and write it in with my pit pen, and that works just fine. Not anybody that's going to be like, oh, those aren't real antennas, you're busted. So I just go with what is easy. And my belief is that if you're doing art and it begins to steal your joy, then it's not serving the purpose for which it was created. And so again, that's a heart place that I'm entering into, where I just want to create for the love of creating. I love sharing with you guys, but I can't perform. I need to just create. I need to create from my heart again. I need to be imperfect. I need to be free in what I do. And so I want to bring you along for the ride, because I know that is a message that speaks to other folks as well. So I'm doing a first layer of edging around the spread with my vintage photo ink. And then when I was done with that, I decided that it wasn't quite dark enough. And so I can come back in with another layer of my Ranger Black Archival ink, and really got some dark edges on the very edge. And I really was pleased with it. So, and the other thing, the beauty of having inked all of those ephemera pieces and the butterfly prior to putting them down, now I don't have to fuss with trying to shade things, because I really struggle with that in my art. And because I edged it already, it's already popping out for the page. So I love discovering that. That was actually something I discovered in playing around with the art journaling a little bit, or the junk journaling. So anyway, there's me coming around it with the black as well. So I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you'll hop on over to the blog at B.Rebornart.com and check out the writing that is the inspiration for this spread. It's going to be a good one. It's very introspective and simplistic. So Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for still following me after I leapt off of YouTube and Facebook. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're inspired, and I hope that you'll get out your supplies and that you'll create too. So here's some close-ups for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.